Hello, welcome to the Winter 2021 Enrollment Information Webinar. This afternoon, we're going to be talking a little bit about ways of assisting you in your enrollment. But before we do that, let's start with introductions. My name is Kathy Baez. I'm Assistant Dean of Academic Advising here at Muir College.
Hi, my name is Sierra Rios. I'm the Assistant Academic Advisor at Muir College, and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
Hi everyone, my name is Daisy Gonzalez. Pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am the Senior Peer Advisor at Muir College.
And my pronouns are she, her, hers, yeah, also. So thank you, welcome everybody, and thank you all for being here, for presenting. Let me see here. Let's get started with a couple important announcements. Just want to share with you all that you are on listen only mode since this is a webinar, and you can hear us, but we can't hear you. So keep that in mind. We'll be answering some questions at the end of the presentation. So please send those questions via the Q&A feature at the end of the presentation to ask questions. During our presentation, unfortunately, we don't have the energy and time to answer all the chats. We know you're all wanting to chat, but we want you to listen in on the very important information that we have for you, and maybe we'll be answering your question before the end of the presentation. And this webinar will be recorded, so we will email you the link in a few days. So first off, let's talk about what we're going to be talking about. It's going to be focusing on the Pass Enrollment system that we have here at UCSD, the online registration system that you've probably already experienced, most likely in the first session or first quarter that you were coming in, and some resources to help you in figuring out what classes to select, and of course, some frequently asked questions and some Q&A at the end. First, we have some really new information for you all. We recognize that most of you are new. So back in the summer when you were enrolling in fall 2020 classes, you were given a lot of information from your academic advisors. We shared with you your recommended courses, and then you went in one enrollment time, date and time, and then you just added classes. And that was your first quarter. So now from 2021 and beyond, until you graduate, you'll be registering a little bit differently. You're going to be in charge of taking care of your own enrollment. So you're going to be figuring out what classes to take, and we'll be there with you, but we'll be helping you with some resources also. And most importantly, there's going to be 2 enrollment dates and times that you're going to be needing to know and how to use. So with that, Sierra's going to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this is what you all are here today to learn about, is our Pass enrollment system. And so like Kathy said, we have this divided up into 2 different days. So most of you might have already seen this. If not, that's okay, and that's exactly what we're here for. So before we jump into actually how Pass enrollment works, and before we actually get you enrolled in classes, we really want to check to make sure that you do not have any holds on your accounts. So that's really important to make sure you clear them, because they may affect your enrollment. So it's good to check beforehand, before your enrollment time starts, so that you will be okay to enroll in all your classes for winter. So again, these dates are divided up in 2 different dates and times, and a lot of the times we have many resources that can help you out when planning the courses between your 2 different appointment times. And these will be what we're going over today. So we have our Muir College website. We'll be looking over degree audits, as well as FourYear Plans, and then also just mentioning where you can get information for your major and for the college requirements as well. So then if we go to the next slide, this is where we actually hop into what Pass is all about. So on your first date and time, this is when they're your first chance to enroll in courses. It only lasts 48 hours, so it's important to make sure you know your enrollment time and know when it starts. In addition, you only can enroll up to 11.5 units. So it's important to look over which courses you're planning for the next quarter and figure out which ones should be prioritized, because you do not have the option to enroll during your first pass. So it's important to make those 11.5 units count and prioritize some courses such as MCWP 40 or 50 that may have limited space. So then moving on to your second pass date and time, this will be a whole separate date. This time you don't have a time limit, so it's open, which is really great, but you do have another unit limit, which is up to 19.5 units. So you can enroll up into those 19.5 units during your second pass, and you can also waitlist your courses. So this is where you'll be finishing up the rest of your enrollment, and you have up until week 2 to add your courses to do so. All right, and so with that, just to give you a little bit more information about how you actually access your own personal 2-pass enrollment times and how it works from your side, I'm going to pass it off to Daisy to pick it up.
All right, so once you all are on and logged into My Triton Link, this is what you all will see once you're already also on the WebReg page and once you've selected to see the Winter 2020 page. So you will be directed to this here where it'll have course enrollment, and then to the right, you'll see your appointment time. So this is going to be a very important resource to you all and something to make a note of in your calendar. That's how you're able to view the specific time and date of your first and second pass. And as previously mentioned by Sierra, you only have a 48-hour window. So it's important to keep track of when these are and doing it as soon as possible as well, because the classes do tend to fill up pretty quickly and you want to ensure you get in when your enrollment time begins. So going on to the next page, the next slide here, we see, okay, so this is what you'll see initially before you're on that WebReg page. This is, we have here My Triton Link. Once you're logged in, this is how yours would likely look as well. So you'll see here all your personal information in regards to your name, major, and all that good stuff. And then under classes and enrollment, this is a tab that you all will be utilizing quite often if you haven't already done so with enrolling. This is where you'll see WebReg as well as other good resources like the schedule of classes. It could also direct you to Canvas, and advising and grades will be talked about a little bit later. That's where you could view your degree audit and different stuff like that. And then going on to the next page. Okay, so this is what we will see once we're actually in WebReg before we get to the page where you see your appointment time. So you'll see here, it has options for you for this little drop-down menu here. We have fall quarter listed here. That's what you have been seeing. But now if you click the little drop-down menu, you'll see winter quarter 2020, and that's when you'll select go, and you'll be directed to the page where you could see your enrollment times. But if you need a little bit more help on how to navigate WebReg, because it could be confusing sometimes, there are a lot of buttons and tabs everywhere, you could also view the tutorial, the little button down there if you need help, and it'll give you some helpful tips and just different steps on how to go about navigating the website itself. And then if we move on to the next slide here, Kathy will move on to how to go about enrollment.
Okay, so now that you have all this important information to get you started, you're probably wanting to know, okay, so what classes should I take? And this is where we go into the resources that are used by our peer advisors, our advisors, and pretty much everyone and anyone on campus, and most importantly, you, the student. So we're going to be going into a deeper dive on the Muir College website, our 4-year plans, the degree audit. Your major advisors are also a great resource, as well as your Muir Academic Advising Office. So take it away, Daisy.
Yes. All right. So this is what you all will see here once you're on the John Muir College website, and you will go ahead and click on academics. Again, another really helpful resource to you all, where you will find a bunch of different links to things that will help you in regards to enrollment and viewing different requirements. So the main one we're going to be focusing on is the focusing on GE and degree requirements under the academics tab. And we're going to go ahead and move on to the next slide here to view specifics. So under the transfer students and general education tab, so this is all for the transfer students here in regards to IGETC and different forms of IGETC, like partial IGETC, and if you've completed GEs at another UC campus or at your community college, this is where you'll be able to find all the information in regards to that if you need any help navigating or viewing that specific information for yourself. So this is for the transfers. And moving on to the next slide here, we have information for first-year students and non-IGETC students. So this is where you'll be able to view all university requirements as well as your writing requirements and, of course, all of the GEs. So I know sometimes it could be tricky navigating GEs because of the whole sequence requirement and all that, but just know to yourself that 3 courses complete a sequence, and that's how it is for all of the specific GE topics for Muir. And also it's important to keep in mind that for all of these different options listed here, they may not be offered every single quarter, but these are the options available to you in order to complete that specific GE requirement. So like as highlighted here is the psych sequence. So for this specific one, we see commas separating each class that you have the ability to take. So with psych in particular, you have the option to take them in any order you would like, 3 courses from those listed there. So you could take 7 first, and then 3, and then 5, or 3 and then 4. That's an option there. But speaking in terms of econ, the difference between those two is that with econ 1 must be taken before econ 2 and 3. And those are the 3 courses that are taken for that specific sequence to complete it for the social sciences. And also to remind you, again, they're not offered every quarter, but these are just options. And going on to the next slide here, we see that at the very bottom of the page that we have been on GE requirements and college requirements, we have GE courses offered fall 2020. So now it should be updated if it isn't done so already, that for winter 2021 courses that are offered for Muir GEs. So if we go on to the next page here, the next slide, we'll see how it would look if you click on that specific link. So these are all the courses listed here that are going to be offered for that specific quarter that could work towards fulfilling a GE sequence for Muir. So for this particular quarter, which was fall 2020, the quarter we're currently in, these were all the courses that were offered that could be completed towards any sort of GE requirement. Also, just to keep in mind, this has no times or professors listed here. All that information will be available to you through WebReg. And then we can go ahead and move on to the next slide here. So this is another option in terms of viewing your, in terms of viewing the WebReg as well as going to My Triton link. So this is how it'll look if you're not already initially logged in. So they have different tools here is what they call them. So if you're trying to go to WebReg, you'd click on the WebReg tool under Class and Enrollment. And you'll be able to see, as I mentioned earlier, the days, times, the instructor, whether it's online, hybrid, anything like that, as well as the finals. And then if we go on to the next slide, if Sierra will take it away with FourYear, oh, sorry about that. So this slide right here is how it'll look once you're already logged into My Triton link. We just wanted to distinguish between the two and how to access both, as we talked about earlier.
All right, so we are going to start jumping into the FourYear plans. So like Daisy was describing, all those requirements are specifically for Muir GEs. And so when we're looking at a bigger picture, the FourYear plans are a really great resource to start getting those long-term plans started for you. So to get there, you would just want to go to plans.ucsd.edu. And all you have to do is just select your year. So you'd want to put 2020, whatever department you're in, and then the specific major. And so that guides you to a specific plan for your major and your college. So if we go to the next slide, you can see an example of one of these plans that's for a biology major. So these plans are set up so this student, you know, is a standard Muir biology major. So they would have their courses all planned out there. But if you see, these are just general plans for anyone to use. So even if you are like an undecided major and looking into different majors, you could use these as a resource to look at the long-term plans for each major and see which ones each require. Otherwise, if you're looking at them, you might see that they are pretty general. And so it is important to note that on these plans, we don't include any AP units, we don't include summer. There's a lot of things that aren't included on those, and we know that you all are very active and have lots of incoming credits and different course schedules. So obviously these are going to change for each individual, but it is a really great resource just to have all those courses planned out and to sort of keep track as to which year and which year you should be following certain classes or certain sequences, especially for your major. And so if we go to the next slide, you can actually see if we scroll down from the 4-year plans, we have just little notes for you that are important to read. So we have our general Muir College notes that are good to look over if you have any questions about how the GEs are laid out on the 4-year plan. But also importantly is what your major has noted on that side. So a lot of times majors will have specific course requirements, or they may have a substitution. All of those exceptions or clarifications will be posted in that little section. So it's good to just look over them and make sure that all the courses that are planned there, that you're taking into account all the different factors that have been set up by the major department.
Okay, so I'm going to be talking about the degree audit. The degree audit is another very important tool to be used. We have first-year students use it, transfers use it, and definitely when you get ready to graduate, you will be using this. I like to call it like a personal guide. It's a personal guide because it actually factors in the classes that you are enrolled in, and it populates whatever major you have listed, and it tells you what you have left to do and what you have completed. So how to find it, let's start there. You can go to Advising Tools, Degree Audit. So that's very easy to find since we've been talking about that. Once you hit on that, then you'll get the degree audit. You can run a degree audit, which means that it will refresh the information as of last night. So this will be very updated, and keep in mind that your degree audit will change based on the information that you have. For example, right now you are enrolling in winter classes. So as soon as you add a winter course and you refresh your degree audit, it will show that course. If you don't refresh the degree audit, then it will not populate that particular course you just added. So here you go. You can click on it, run, and you'll see that it will give you a history of all the degree audits that you've run. So that's another way that you can see, oh, am I looking at the most updated degree audit or not? And this is really important to note there. I did note also that I mentioned the major. So the major is really important. We have sometimes students who contact us and say, well, my degree audit is not updating my true major. And keep in mind, the degree audit is a computer program that can only read what the computer says. And in this case, the degree audit is linked to Triton Link. So whatever information that you see on Triton Link, more importantly, your major, that's the degree audit that you will receive. If you have changed your major, you will need to refresh your degree audit so it shows the new major. So keep in mind that anytime you make some changes on Triton Link or even submit courses like transfer work that comes in and you don't see that it's populating on the degree audit, just go ahead and refresh the degree audit, and that should solve that mystery right there. And once you get to the degree audit, there's a couple of things that we want to note. Most importantly, red. Red is what you'll see a lot of in the beginning of your journey here at UCSD, because that means that you have not completed those areas, or that for some reason the degree audit is not recognizing that those areas have been completed. And the reason I say that is, especially for our transfer students, if you have taken a course at a community college or somewhere along the way, and you know for a fact that it clears a certain category, whether it be a general education category, like in this area, or maybe it's part of your major, then make sure, and if you think that it should be cleared and it's not, make sure to contact the office that will be updating that information. And the way you know which office will be updating the information is pretty simple. If you see red in the area of your major requirements, then by default, you will always be contacting your major advisor, and you can do that on the vac.ucsd.edu. Let them know that your degree audit needs to be updated, and they will let you know whether you need to petition or they can just update it manually. Same thing goes for your GEs. If you see that there are some GEs that you have cleared, but they're not updating, in that case, we are the office, the Muir College Academic Advising Office is the office that would update in that area. So those are the differences in terms of who to contact to update the degree audit. There is some information here on obviously checking the Muir website for all the details. If you look at the degree audit, the same information that Daisy talked about in the GE section of our website is the same information that's also available here on your degree audit. Sometimes students would prefer to look at the information on the website, or you can just go off of the information that's on the degree audit, same information. Another couple things, transfer credit AP. So you will see here under Psychology 1 that this student has TA as the grade. Obviously, there's no such thing as a TA grade. What this is telling us is that this student has taken a Psychology 1 equivalent class somewhere else, whether it be an AP class or a transfer course. And so it's T for transfer, A for most likely the grade the student received at that community college, or it may be an AP course. Regardless, it is counting here and satisfying part of the social science sequence in this category. WIP stands for work in progress. Fortunately, the student here has completed everything. You'll see a lot of green here. That means that the student's almost done with their requirements. But in your case, if you are just getting started and you go through the degree audit and you see WIP next to the grade, that's what it means. It says work in progress, which means you're technically enrolled in that class currently and you have not received a grade for that. There's also transfer courses that come into play, and those are also, I think I already talked about that. Transfer students, IGETC. Okay, I do want to talk about IGETC. For transfer students only, if you have IGETC certified and it's listing on the Triton Link academic history side, then your degree audit should be updating. If it is not updating and you see it on Triton Link, then just send us a message on the VAC and we'll research that information. If for some reason you go to your degree audit and it does not show your IGETC, partial IGETC, or IGETC does not show under your Muir College GEs, that may be because you have not requested your community college to send the IGETC certification to UCSD. And remember, going back to this is a computer program. If the computer is looking for IGETC on Triton Link and it doesn't find it, it's not going to populate that information on your degree audit. So that's really important to note, especially now we're getting a lot of our transfer students coming in with that information. And those questions. Okay, so that was for our transfer students. First year students or students without IGETC, you may be required to take social science sequence if you haven't completed it. I did want to share that there's a couple ways to look at it, and I think Daisy stressed this already, so I'm gonna go through this real quick. Make sure that you're looking at the right group. So there's a lot of times our students will come in and say, well, I have social science completed because I completed a psychology class, an economics class, and a cognitive science class. And they think that because they're all social science classes that they have completed 3 courses there. The answer is you cannot use courses in different categories. It has to be in one of our groups that is listed on your degree audit. So if you have any questions about that, you can always refer to us, or you can go to the website and see if you are looking at the right sequence. In this example, the student has come in with Psychology 1 transfer credit. To complete the remaining year or sequence, the student would need to select from any 2 out of these categories right here, or these courses here. So they would select 2 out of the psychology 2, 3, 4, 6, or 7 options. And these courses can be taken in any order. And just because the courses are listed on the degree audit does not mean that they will be offered this quarter. Keep in mind, as Daisy showed you the schedule of classes, the schedule of classes is really where you're going to be looking to see what options do you have for that particular quarter in selecting courses. So this is important information right there. And now we're going to move into potential classes.
Yeah, so I'm sure some of you may be struggling in terms of what classes you should choose to first pass or what you should save for your second pass. So these are some good options right here and different classes to keep in mind. So in terms of Muir 40 and 50 or 125 for transfers, as well as the AWP courses, those usually tend to fill up pretty quickly, and there are likely going to be a very sparse amount of seats available for your second pass. And these courses here, considering every Muir student needs it before they graduate. So we would highly, highly recommend that you choose to first pass these particular courses here. And it's also important to keep in mind that for your first 6 quarters here at UCSD, and which usually tends to be your first and second year, you have priority enrollment into these courses. So you have the ability to first pass them. But once you move past, get into your 7th quarter here at UCSD, you will no longer have that ability to first pass these courses, which makes it a lot harder to enroll. And we obviously don't want that to happen, considering you do need it in order to graduate. So that's something to keep in mind if you're struggling to figure out what class you want to first pass. And also lower division major courses. So these courses are good ones to start off with, considering some of them may tend to be prerequisites into the upper division courses that you have required of you for your major. So this usually tends to be like for the science and engineering majors, especially those particular courses tend to end up filling up pretty quickly, considering all of those particular students in those majors need those courses in order to complete further courses. So we could think of like the Math 10 series or the Math 20 series, or the Chem 6 series, or physics. Those usually tend to be the courses these particular majors need and tend to fill up. So those are ones to keep in mind as well. And those also could fulfill GE sequences as well for math or natural sciences. So you do the overlap rule right there if you would like. And same thing with GEs, like if you're struggling and you possibly don't want to be in the particular major you're in, GEs are a good place to start off with enrollment, because even though you may not want to complete a particular course for that major, since you may plan on switching, GEs are always going to be there for Muir, and either way they'll have to be fulfilled eventually no matter what your major is. So GE courses are a good option as well, and they also give you the flexibility to explore new topics and look into different subjects if you're interested in something else, or if you want a minor or a double major. Those are good classes as well to enroll in for first pass, as well as DEI courses, where actually a list of these could be found if you look up UCSD DEI courses. They have an updated list that has been going on for years now, where they have a ton of courses there that could be fulfilled, that could fulfill the specific requirement, and some even overlap with GEs. So it's a really smart idea to look into courses that could fulfill 2 requirements. There's also freshman seminar courses, which first-year students are allowed to take. And it's also important to keep in mind for this, you have the ability to get authorization to enroll in these courses, say if you have sophomore standing. So even you're still technically a freshman, but you just have more units in your considered sophomore standing, but you still have the ability to enroll in these seminars, and they can be found at the website there at ugseminars.ucsd.edu. Going on to the next slide, we'll continue on with some questions that are often asked.
Right, so getting into the questions. So to start off, we have, do I have to continue with the same GE class? So this has already been addressed a bit, but the quick answer is no. You don't necessarily have to continue with the same GE course. It's up to you which course you choose, obviously. But we want to make sure that if you do choose the same GE course, that you're continuing within that same sequence. So in other words, just stressing that importance of not mixing and matching the courses, but if you do plan it, just make sure it's in the right sequence. As far as signing up for classes, how many classes should I sign up for? Typically, we recommend 4 classes, which is about 16 units. Although 12 units is considered our limit for full-time status, you certainly could enroll in 12, but 16 is our recommended amount of units in order to graduate on time, depending if for 4 years or 2 years, depending on your first year or transfer student status. But if you have any questions on, if you not sure how many units you should take personally, feel free to connect with us and we can help you out there. So for those students that are looking to take more than 16 units, so how can I take 5 classes or more than 19.5 units? So if you remember, during that second pass, you're limited to 19.5 units. So the only way that you can get above that is once the first day of classes starts, you can start enrolling in up to 22 units. So that is obviously a lot of units. We typically don't recommend students to do that. Especially since most of you are just starting out. There's not necessarily the need either. So like we said, just more likely stick to that 16 units, but just so you know, that option is out there to enroll in 22 units once the first day of classes starts. And then the last question is going back to those freshman seminars. So like Daisy said, if you did want to get in the freshman seminar, but maybe you have too many units, like you're in sophomore standing, then all you need to do is just go to the enrollment instructions on that page that Daisy mentioned, and you'd be able to request an enrollment exception for that. All right, so as we're wrapping up, we do want to remind you of some really important dates that are coming up. So towards the end of this fall quarter, actually next week, we have vacations. We have holiday on November 26th and 27th during week 8. And then Saturday, December 12th through the 19th is finals week. So things are coming up close as we have midterms and going into finals. And then you'll have your winter break, and then we'll all come back on Monday, January 4th for the first day of classes for winter quarter. So by then, most of you will have used all these resources that we talked about today to plan your classes. But if not, go on to the next slide, and we have our resources. So like we've mentioned throughout this session, we have our college advisors, who are available to you to answer any questions you have about that college section on your degree audit, or just about our requirements in general. You also have your major and your minor departments available to you through the Virtual Advising Center or through their department websites. So these are really good folks to reach out to if you do have any specific questions for your specific degree requirements, because all we've talked about today are general. So if you need a little tailoring to your schedule, feel free to reach out to these folks and we'll be glad to help you.
And thank you for joining us for this webinar.